This is Radio Nepal. I'm Kaushal Khimire with the news. The headlines first. President Ramchandra Paudel calls for attention to treatment of Jajarkot quake survivors. International Ayurveda Conference begins in Janakpur Dham. Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda says the conference can contribute to production of Ayurveda medicine in Nepal. China provides relief materials worth 300 million rupees for Jajarkot earthquake survivors. And G7 backs humanitarian pauses in Gaza. Now the news in detail. President Ramchandra Paudel has called for attention to treatment of those injured in Jajarkot earthquake. In a meeting with Health Minister Mohan Bahadur Basnet at Rashtrapati Bhavan, Sital Niwas yesterday, the President urged the Minister to pay attention to the injured who are undergoing treatment at various hospitals in the country and make arrangements for effective treatment. President Paudel emphasized that every possible effort should be made on part of the government to make the medical treatment process of the injured easy and effective. Referring to the possibility of outbreak of other diseases during the onset of winter, the President drew the attention of the Health Minister towards it. A visiting delegation led by Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party of the Tibet Autonomous Region, Wang Juncheng, paid a courtesy call on Vice President Ram Sahai Prasad Yadav yesterday. During the meeting held at the Vice President's office in Lainchor, various dimensions of Nepal-China relations were discussed. On the occasion, Vice President Yadav mentioned that Tibet Autonomous Region was the gateway for Nepal-China bilateral interaction in the fields of trade, tourism, culture, and other areas of interest, and expressed the belief that the visit would further strengthen the relationship between the two countries. During the meeting, Chinese Communist Party Tibet Autonomous Region Secretary Wang said that his visit was focused on the implementation of the agreement reached during the recent visit by Nepali Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda to China. International Ayurveda Conference began in Janakpur Dham yesterday. The International Ayurveda Conference will last for 2 more days. Doctors, professors and scientists in the field of Ayurveda from 17 countries, including Nepal, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, South Korea, the USA, France, Russia and Australia are participating in the 3-day conference. Speaking at the inaugural session of the conference, Prime Minister Pushpakamal Dahal Prachanda expressed his belief that the international conference would contribute to production of Ayurveda medicine, including the processing of herbs in Nepal. The Prime Minister added that by developing Ayurveda doctors in the country, there would be a possibility of achieving economic prosperity. Deputy Prime Minister and Home Minister Narayan Kaji Shrestha yesterday received the earthquake relief materials dispatched by the government of China. Chinese ambassador to Nepal, Chen Song, handed 300 million rupees worth emergency dispatches to Deputy Prime Minister Shrestha amid a program at Pokhara Regional International Airport. The relief materials include blankets, tarpaulins and other essential materials. 2 aircraft from Chengdu Airport in China landed in Pokhara Airport with the assistance. Talking to journalists, Deputy Prime Minister Shrestha said China had always helped Nepal during every crisis. He added that Nepal-China relations were based on sovereignty, independence and mutual benefits and interest. The Chinese ambassador said Nepal and China had a friendly relation and they had each other's support during crisis. The Health Ministry has urged the concerned bodies to carry out works for the prevention of possible disease, outbreak, malnutrition and psychosocial problems following the earthquake. Health Ministry spokesperson Dr. Prakash Budathoki said the ministry had urged all concerned agencies for the same. He said the ministry had mobilized a 3-member team from the Epidemiology and Disease Control Division to the earthquake-hit areas for assessing the likelihood of a disease outbreak. The Pokhara High Court has issued a temporary order allowing Lakeside, the tourist hub of Pokhara, to remain open for 24 hours a day. A single bench of High Court Judge Rajan Prasad Bhattrai issued the order in the name of the District Administration Office Gaski yesterday to allow businesses in Lakeside to continue round the clock. The order comes in response to a petition filed by Devi Kumari Baral seeking a directive not to allow the local administration to stop business operations in the Lake City beyond midnight. The court had also ordered the defendant to submit a written response within 15 days outlining the grounds, reasons and evidences for stopping business in the tourist hub beyond the regular operation hours. You're listening to Radio Nepal's 8 a.m. English News Bulletin. Now on to some international updates. G7 foreign ministers on Wednesday said that they supported humanitarian pauses and corridors in the Hamas-Israel war, but refrained from calling for a ceasefire. The statement from the G7 foreign ministers during their meeting in Tokyo mentions that they support humanitarian pauses and corridors to facilitate urgently needed assistance, civilian movement, and the release of hostages. The ministers also emphasized Israel's right to defend itself and its people in accordance with international law as it seeks to prevent a recurrence of the Hamas attacks like it happened in Israel on October 7th. They further called on Iran to refrain from providing support to Hamas and taking further actions that could destabilize the Middle East, including support for Lebanese Hezbollah, and to use its influence with those groups to de-escalate regional tensions. Meanwhile, Qatar is mediating talks between Israel and Hamas for a potential short ceasefire in exchange for the release of 10 to 15 hostages held in Gaza. The negotiations are ongoing and are being coordinated with the U.S., according to the international news agency AFP. This comes after a month-long conflict in Gaza initiated by a Palestinian militant group's attack that resulted in over 1,400 deaths and more than 240 hostages. Qatar, a supporter of the Palestinian cause, has been actively involved in diplomacy to secure the release of hostages, successfully negotiating the release of 4 hostages in recent weeks. Now, the general weather forecast for the country for today, according to the Meteorological Forecasting Division. The weather will be partly cloudy in the hilly areas and mainly fair in the rest of the country. There are also chances of light snowfall at 1 or 2 places of the high, hilly and mountainous region of Kosi Province, Gandaki Province and Karnali Province. With this, we have almost come to the end of this news bulletin, but before wrapping up, let's have a reminder of the headlines once again. President Ramchandra Paudel calls for attention to treatment of Jajarkot quake survivors. International Ayurveda Conference begins in Janakpur Dham. China provides relief materials worth 300 million rupees for Jajarkot earthquake survivors. And G7 backs humanitarian pauses in Gaza. Well, that's all the news we have for this bulletin. Our next bulletin in English will be at 2 in the afternoon. You can also listen to us online at our website www.onlineradionepal.gov.np. Keep listening to Radio Nepal and have a good day.